Welcome to the first episode of Tradition Cafe Podcast. It's Monday, December 23rd, 2024. I'm Anna. Happy holidays. You know, I like the holidays, but 2024 was pretty dang sucky. And I'm ready for this crap to be over with. So bring it, 2025. I'm sick of this shit. You know, it's fitting that the launch of this podcast features my amazing mom, Carmen Chavier. Last Christmas, I found her in our kitchen in the beautiful Dominican Republic, preparing one of my all-time favorite holiday dishes, the ensalada rusa. Ensalada rusa. It actually means Russian salad. But, so I couldn't resist the urge to film her. Trust me, you won't want to miss that link to that unforgettable video at traditioncafe.com. Check it out. Go to the videos page. It also is on the homepage too, so you'll find it. In its inaugural episode, she and I were sipping espresso and discussing her rich Dominican heritage and her journey to the United States, where she and my dad settled in Aberdeen, South Dakota. Yeah, you heard that right. There were two lovebirds who gave up their sunny island for the snowy landscape, the tundra, of South Dakota. You'll learn about her passion for cooking, the vibrant Dominican holiday traditions she integrated into Midwestern life, the challenges she faced while learning English, and much more. Join us for a warm conversation filled with culture, history, and culinary magic, all accompanied by the sounds of tropical birds in the garden. Let's go. Do you know what maguana means?
I don't know. You've researched that more than I did.
Mother. Recording.
Oh, you're recording?
Uh-huh.
I think it has to do something with Taino.
Yeah, she's right. I did research it. My mom was born in the town of San Juan de la Maguana, located in the western region of the Dominican Republic. It serves as the capital of the San Juan province, which was founded in 1503. It is one of the first cities established on the island. The city was named San Juan de la Maguana in honor of San Juan Bautista, or Saint John. Additionally, it carries the Taino name of the valley, Maguana, which translates to the first stone or the unique stone. It was one of the chiefdoms of the Taino people when they inhabited the island of Hispaniola. And how many generations do you have back in that area?
Now?
No, I mean... Well, yeah, sure.
Way back?
Yeah. How many generations before you?
Well, way back to my grandma's, both grandmas, great-grandpas. I would say that.
Okay.
Way back, yeah. Mm-hmm. I say 2 or 3 generations.
Okay.
Camaños are all from there. Because they began there, the Camaños. Mm-hmm. Now, with my grandmas go farther back, both grandmas, in that area.
Oh, okay.
Although my paternal grandmother was from the area, and all her families, I'll say 2 or 3 generations from there. Mm-hmm. Now, my maternal grandma, she was mostly from around Asua.
Okay. Yeah.
And then
more southern.
Yeah, but my great-grandpa was probably from that area, from San Juan area, Guanito area.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'd say several generations on both sides.
And San Juan de la Maguana is mainly famous for the Taino center there. It was kind of like known as the center.
Yes.
Yeah.
It had a big settlement of Taino. Mm-hmm. And you prove that by that park. Mm-hmm.
The Bate.
Mm-hmm.
So what is this Bate we speak of? A Bate was a sacred space for the Taino people. They used it for gatherings, celebrations, meetings, and playing a traditional ball game that was also called Bate. The Taino constructed these bates in various shapes and sizes, although they were normally rectangular. Surrounding the bate were stones that featured carved symbols known as petroglyphs, and you could still see some of those stones today in San Juan de la Maguana.
Yeah, it goes back, way back. And then San Juan then was known best for rice, you know.
That's where they farm it?
A lot of rice because it's flat. It's a valley, and then the mountains. So it's known for that in the modern day.
Okay. So you have, it's mainly Spanish on both sides of your family, going way back after those generations, previous to those generations that are from the Dominican Republic. Are they all from Spain?
Yes.
Both sides?
I'm sure about my paternal side. Not so sure about my maternal side.
Oh, okay. Why is that, do you think? Just
because it's not, little is known.
Okay.
Not much was
documented? Or?
Documented or told. So I don't know where my grandpa.
On your maternal grandpa?
Where my great grandpa came from. So I have no clue. Mom had no clue either. So, you know, people were not into
genealogy?
No,
or
no.
But no, like,
no
oral histories that came down for your mom's side?
No, nothing.
Was it because it wasn't important on the female side? Listen, at Tradition Cafe, we do care about the maternal bloodline. Some of you may know that my full name is Ana Rita Xavier Camaño. And so my mother's maiden name in Latino culture goes after your paternal last name. So Xavier is my father and Camaño is my mother.
They just, you know, they just didn't talk about it. It is true.
Yeah.
They were not interested in genealogy.
So how do you know about the Spanish side of...
Because my grandpa directly came from Spain.
Oh, I thought it went more generations back.
No, my grandfather came directly from Spain.
Okay. Where?
From Santiago de Compostela.
Okay. And you have documentation of that one?
Oh, yes. Gallego. That's people from Santiago de Compostela called Gallegos.
So when did you move to the United States?
1965.
And it's because you married Dad.
Yeah.
But you married him here, and he wasn't here.
No. Right.
Tell me about what was going on in the Dominican Republic when you left.
The Civil War of 1965.
Was it a civil war, or was it just an American occupation?
It was a civil war. At least that's how it was defined.
Right.
For the Americans to come in. Because there was a coup d'etat, and there was the country was divided. So Americans used that excuse to come in, to defend, to take care of the American citizens. But then they stayed and they fought. So, yes, it was American occupation.
Yeah. In the years leading up to the Dominican Republic Civil War of 1965, the country faced significant political turmoil following the assassination of dictator Rafael Trujillo in 1961. This created a power vacuum and heightened political instability. In 1963, a democratic election resulted in Juan Bosch becoming the president and taking office in the Palacio Nacional, which is the Dominican equivalent of the White House. Unfortunately, just a few months into his term, he was overthrown by a military coup d'etat. An interesting fact is that my mother's cousin, Francisco Alberto Camaño Deño, was one of the leaders in the movement to restore Bosch to the presidency. This group of loyalists became known as the Constitucionalistas because they sought to return to a rightful and constitutional form of government, as opposed to the military junta that had taken control. Around this time, the situation in the Dominican Republic raised concerns with the U.S. government about a potential communist takeover. In response, President Lyndon B. Johnson sent troops to intervene, an operation dubbed Operation Power Pack. which ultimately led to the Civil War of 1965. During all this upheaval, my dad was in the U.S. completing his medical training while my mom remained in the Dominican Republic. They faced travel restrictions for Americans entering the country, so they had to get creative for their wedding. My parents had a wedding by proxy. My dad's father stood in for him during the ceremony since he couldn't be there. The wedding photos turned out to be quite unusual. Yeah. After the wedding, my mom and her mom, my grandma, had to literally dodge gunfire from snipers stationed on rooftops to reach the consulate and obtain her visa to travel to the U.S. She then escaped the country by hiding in a Dominican naval truck, which was... So why did you settle in South Dakota?
Good. Well, that's a straight answer. Because your father, my husband, went there.
Why?
He had just graduated from his pediatrics. He had just finished his pediatric training. He wanted to go somewhere where it was a small town.
Where did he do his training?
He did his training in Michigan. He started out in Massachusetts, in Worcester, under the Massachusetts General Hospital. He started his first. That was a year. He did a year internship, and then he decided to go into pediatrics. So he moved to Michigan to do that, and he did that in Michigan and Worcester. He started out in Worcester, Massachusetts, and then from there he went to Michigan. And then from there he went to Ohio, under Ohio State. And,
did you join him in Ohio?
When I joined him, he was in Columbus, Ohio. Okay. His last year, just finishing his training, pediatrics, his third year under Ohio State, and then we went to South Dakota. Why did we go to South Dakota? Because he had a friend, a common friend, who was also a Dominican and a cardiologist, and that was Mario Herrera. Mario knew Dr. Bormes, Dr. William Bormes, when he was in Ohio, and Dr. Bormes' roots were from Bill Bormes, we call him. His roots were in
Aberdeen?
His roots were really from Minnesota, but he had another brother who was a physician as well in Aberdeen, and he had a group of doctors practicing in Aberdeen, and he asked his brother Bill Bormes to come and bring other people because we had no pediatricians, so they wanted a pediatrician. So through Mario and through Dr. Bormes, we went to Aberdeen, South Dakota. Mario left Aberdeen, South Dakota within 5 years, and we stayed. He wanted a small town to raise a family.
Plus, he's a small town guy.
Yeah. So when I came, that had already all been decided that he was coming to South Dakota
to stay.
So
you really had no choice.
No, I had no choice. But he said to me, "We're going to this place, and we're going to be there a year and see if we like it. If we like it, we stay. If we don't, we just go somewhere else." We stayed.
You liked it?
Yeah. We thought it was a small town, living. It was, people were nice.
Safe.
How
were you received by the people there? Since you were,
well, I was
not
non-white, not
Caucasian, spoke a different language, immigrant.
I was received very well.
Yeah.
I was received very well. They all thought I was a student from college. So every time I came around somewhere in the store or something, "Oh, are you at Northern University?" At that time it was Northern College. "You're a student?" "No, I'm not." "I am so-and-so's wife." Say, "Oh, the doctor." So I was well received.
So
I wouldn't know how another person of my same background would have been received
Because
I was the doctor's wife. I had no
Right.
idea what other people did, in a different same background. But I was received very well. So was my husband.
yeah,
Being
because he was a
professional is a
doctor.
different thing. Being
Yeah.
professional, and they really liked doctors then. So
Mhm.
they had very few. They have plenty. They have doctors, but they wanted more.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we were received very well.
That's good. How did you do with learning the English language?
Well,
Did you learn most of it in South Dakota, or did you start in Ohio?
Well, here in the Dominican Republic, I had been going to English school. I mean, it was called Dominico Americano. Dominico it was where you went to get lessons.
Mm-hmm.
I had already been going there for 3 years, just once a week at night after I left my job. I was working at a bank. And then after I left the bank about 5 or 6 o'clock, I would go directly to my school once a week. I think it was once a week, maybe twice a week.
Why did you do that?
So
Why
I
did you
had-
want to learn English? Was it because of Dad?
I was interested in the
Interested.
language. No,
Okay.
no, I was interested in the language. Now, I was doing that before he came into my life.
So let's get back to South Dakota. Did you right away try to assimilate to?
Sure. Yeah, of course. Both of us. Yes. That was no problem. It just took me time to learn the English, though, because I had a lot of English in the classroom, but it was mostly, I would say, words, vocabulary, not really the spoken language.
Mm-hmm.
So that took me time. The most difficult time was when somebody would call me on the phone,
Yeah.
and that was hard. And then, but I developed really started getting it really, had the ear ready, and not so much of the spoken language, just by watching TV, watching soap operas, and not so much of the soap operas, the commercials on TV
Oh, really?
helped me a lot, because at that time there were a lot of commercials that had the written language plus the verbal. And then
Captions?
Yeah.
Oh. In the
And because they
60s.
were repetitive, they were repetition, that kind of get your ear used to it. And then you say, okay, if you don't understand it the first time, then it goes the second time, the third time, until finally you get it. So yeah, that helps a lot when you're learning a language, that repetition. And then the soap opera was because it was a spoken and not so fast like you get in the news.
Yeah.
The more you practice you see the written word, and so yeah, it helps. Like when I was teaching English, I used that a lot, commercials,
So let's shift.
for my students.
Okay. Let's shift a little bit and talk about your cooking, because when I started this journey for Tradition Cafe, I was originally going to use your first cookbook, your first Dominican cookbook, and cook my way through it. But it's a big book. But it's very interesting to me. So when you got married, did you know how to cook very well?
That's why I had that book. No.
No. You didn't have to cook here at
I
home.
know how to make spaghettis, and I knew how to make a moro, which is rice. My favorite moro to make when I was young, but I was just playing. 2 or 3 friends, from the neighborhood get together. Let's cook. Have a cookout. And that's how we learned to make moro de guandules.
Yeah, yum.
So that's
I
how.
love that.
And then we'll make it just a little bit, and the 3 of us will eat it. Carmencita and I, a friend, and we'll eat it, and then we're done. Then I started making spaghettis. because my family, at one time I had to make spaghettis. I don't know why. There was no one to cook it. And I started making spaghettis. That's all I knew how to do.
Yeah, you
That's
once told
it.
me that Dad was pretty sick of spaghetti when you guys got married.
When I got to the States, and we were in Columbus, Ohio, he had a friend that lived, they're sharing the apartment, an Argentinian doctor. He moved away when I came in, so Dad stayed with the apartment. But Dad wanted to ask him back for dinner. Sometimes I said, well, all I know how to cook is spaghettis. and I think I did make chicken from the book. And
From that same book that I have?
yeah. So I made the spaghettis from the book. And then, no, I knew how to make the spaghettis. I made spaghettis, but I had no idea about quantity.
Did you end up making a ton?
It was going to be like 3 of us, and I cooked, like, I think I cooked the whole box. I think the whole box was 2 pounds. So we ended up with spaghettis for 3 or 4 days, or maybe more. By the end, I didn't want to throw away because I don't believe in throwing food away. You consume it every bit you have. If you don't eat it today, you eat it tomorrow.
Right.
Or the next day.
Oh, I know that very well.
So I've never been a believer of throwing food away. I suppose it's because of my background. You just don't. Whatever you cooked, you ate, and you had the right quantity, and that's it. And so I fed to Dad the next day, spaghettis as they were. Then the third day, I made, with the same spaghettis, I made a spaghetti, how do you call it, like a hot dish.
Oh. Did you learn that from the book?
Yeah, as well. Yeah.
Oh, really? What's that one called?
I don't remember how it's called, but it would be maybe like a torta de spaghetti, something like that. I'm not sure. So I ate that.
That's probably for all the young cooks out there that only knew how to make spaghetti, so they had to come up with something.
So I made that tort, whatever it's called, and oh my God, that would have been 3 more days again. So I think he ate it once and said, I had enough spaghettis. I said, well, let's find out what else we can cook. We don't. I can cook.
Exactly. So then, when you moved to Aberdeen, did you ever cook for any of the Aberdonians?
All the time.
No, I mean in the beginning days.
In the very beginning.
And how did they receive
I
the
didn't
food?
cook for Aberdonians. Yeah, I did for next door neighbors.
Did you cook
for the
Dominican flag?
Haitian friend. Yeah, by then I had already mastered the rice and beans and the chicken.
Did they like it?
Yes, they liked it. It was different. It was good.
La bandera dominicana, or the Dominican flag, is considered the national dish of the Dominican Republic. This hearty meal, typically eaten for lunch, features fluffy white rice, stewed beans, and usually braised chicken, which is called pollo guisado, while res guisada, which is stewed meat, can also be used. Chicken is more affordable, quicker to cook, and more popular in Dominican homes. People usually enjoy it with a fresh salad and may have also tostones, which are fried green plantains, or plátanos maduros, which is a fried sweet plantain, and my personal favorite. But in my opinion, no plate is complete without a few avocado slices on the side. La bandera showcases the rich flavors and traditions of Dominican food. And did you ever try to cook something that would appeal to people there that for their palates, like a casserole or a hot dish or?
Not really.
No.
I've never been good at those. Well, I never was interested in any of them.
Yeah. Well, Dad probably wouldn't have liked it anyway.
I didn't try them, no. I was never into casseroles. I suppose because of my background too, we don't eat that kind of stuff.
Well, so then over the decades, you became very well known in the community for being a great cook and giving stylish dinner parties. Do you remember your first dinner party? Is it when you cooked the Dominican flag for the neighbors?
Maybe in the apartment,
Yeah.
when we came into the apartment, yeah.
And how did that become a regular passion for you?
That was beginning my learning, cooking from the cookbook. But really, I became more into ethnic foods.
Mm-hmm. And why is that?
I was interested in cooking different nations, different palates, different stuff. So I became more interested in that. Maybe in the late 60s,
Mm-hmm.
I started more adventurous about cooking from different countries.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I became involved in cooking different things.
Did
Then
you
I had large dinner parties there, and often.
Did you start with, is there a specific
Ethnicity?
cuisine? Yeah.
Besides Dominican and Cuban and Puerto Rican, which is all very similar.
Yeah.
Then I branched out to Greek,
Mm-hmm.
French. I cooked a lot of French at the beginning. French, and then French. Then from French I went to Greek, and which is one of my favorites.
Yeah, me too.
Middle Eastern.
Mm.
And then I branched out to Chinese, Korean, a little bit, and then
Italian.
Italian,
I
yes.
think you did some Russian
I did
stuff
a lot
too.
of Italian,
didn't you?
Russian. The Russian I mostly did around Easter time because I like the Orthodox desserts and and
So
things like that.
did you follow kind of a tradition because, well, coming off of that answer, you started to do Russian around Easter. So did you follow any other international traditions following along the lines of their holidays?
Oh yes, I wouldn't say specifically which one, but yes, I did. And the fact too that then I joined, we formed. I say we, a couple of friends. We started in the 70s. It was an idea. There was an idea circulating all over that people were forming gourmet clubs, and we formed one in Aberdeen. And they were mostly foreign doctors.
Okay.
So people were cooking their own traditions. Like the Filipino girl will cook the Filipino food, and there was an Indian one who cooked her food, and so we were. And there was a Chinese doctor with an American wife. He was the cook. He was the one that cooked his Chinese food. So we had that, and that started out, quite well because we had like a Chinese night, a Filipino night.
Nice.
And
you would go to that
I would have the
specific
Dominican
person's
night. I would have a Greek night, or I would have, So I bought cookbooks from those countries, and the Italian. I had an Italian cookbook,
But it wasn't like it wasn't a potluck, was it?
it was not.
It was.
You did the
describe it.
whole dinner.
Uh-huh.
There were several in the country that were potluck.
How did you find out about it before we talk about that?
We probably read it somewhere or knew that was something going on in the country, and there were so many of us that were foreign, and we wanted to taste their food, so we did that. So test each other's foods.
Nice.
So
Nice.
but there, in the country was going on. There was something going on, and in the 70s, and most of them were like that, potluck.
Oh, okay.
There was one certain person that every month that it changed who was deciding who were deciding what we were going to eat. So that person would put a menu together and say, okay, you cook this one, you cook that one, and everyone cook a different one.
Oh, okay.
And there were a couple of them in Aberdeen that way too.
But it would always be of the same ethnicity, the food.
No.
Oh,
No,
okay.
it was different. It was different every
But
time.
you would decide.
I'd like to see if it was my
Yeah.
this month, to put the dinner together for the group. I decided on the menu, and I assigned every person their food,
You mean
What
their
to cook.
course?
their course.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Not their
We have-
specific dish. So they would cook a course, like say someone got dessert. and the Chinese doctor would make a Chinese dessert?
If it was the dessert, they'll make their own, yes. Whatever they
Okay, but
want.
you didn't decide, hey, you get dessert and then he can make from whatever country?
No. I think it started out that way.
Mm-hmm.
You said you cook dessert and they cook whatever. And you cook, you do the entree or you do whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and they decide what to cook. But then later on, we put the whole menu
Mm-hmm.
and give the recipes
Oh,
to each
okay.
person to cook that portion of the meal. That seemed to work better.
Yeah.
And because they wanted to, every one of us wanted to experiment different things too.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it was,
that made sense.
Yeah, like I said, oh Anna, you do the tabbouleh, and so you do the tarts for dessert or the torte or whatever, So you gave them the recipe. So
Oh, okay.
yeah.
So you did the research. And
I
then
did
just
the
handed
whole
out.
research.
Okay.
Say if it was my month, I did the research. What we were going to eat. I put the menu together and then passed down the recipes. And
Nice.
then everyone cooked it, whatever you gave them.
That sounds fun. Was it once a month? Is that what you said?
It was once a month,
Yeah.
usually on a Saturday night.
And that was.
And the host is the one that created the menu. The host is the one that took care of the drinks. Okay, and hosts are at their home. Then the next month will be in a different home, and that host again provided the beverages, and then we all brought the food.
Sounds like a really great way to get to know people really well and their backgrounds. And did you learn a lot about the international cultures that you didn't know before? Were there stories exchanged about the food?
There were always stories exchanged, especially at the beginning when they were cooking their own thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And when they were putting their menu, But let's say the Filipino woman would cook her food, and then we started asking about the food and how, and in their families how that was done, Yes, we did.
Yeah. Nice.
Shared stories about their country and their origins and the background of the food and that kind of stuff. Yes.
Nice.
Which was a learning experience for all of us.
Yeah.
At one time we had one Armenian, and she cooked our food from Armenia,
Nice.
and she would tell us about the food and yes.
And the culture behind it and the
Because
traditions.
sometimes some people moved away, then we have to find another one. Usually it was people that enjoyed food and enjoyed cooking.
Yes.
Because they didn't enjoy food or cooking,
Well, obviously
they had
you
no,
wouldn't.
they wouldn't have joined.
Yeah, they wouldn't have.
So we kind of, when we knew someone was moving, they tell us ahead of time, then we said, we're going to ask, and we all agree who to ask.
Oh,
Yeah, we agreed.
it was
Let's
an
ask-
invite-only thing.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So we say, let's ask so-and-so. I think she will be good. Usually we consider the woman because she's the one cooking.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's invite so-and-so. Yes. I said, most of the time people say, oh, I don't know if I'm up to the task of cooking gourmet dinners.
Yeah.
It's called gourmet club. But somewhere not too sure. Because we had an American couple that we asked at one time, and she said, I'm not sure. I said, sure, you can do it. It's
Yeah.
just, So people did do it. We had all kinds of people.
Do you have any funny stories or uncomfortable situations about dishes you would make or something that somebody else made or?
No,
Okay.
if I do, I don't recall them.
What's the worst dish you ever made? Worst tasting? Not that it didn't work out, but something that you didn't like in the end.
There
Or
was
cuisine.
none, really, because,
Yeah?
you choose to cook what appeals to you.
Yeah, but on the months that somebody else.
That somebody else
Yeah.
did it. No, I don't recall anything being bad.
Did anybody else have any situations like that at one of the dinners?
Well, the only thing that I vividly remember is the Filipino woman had a husband who happened to be another physician, and he was from the South, and he was a picky eater, and he didn't like the Filipino food. He was married to one, but she never cooked Filipino food in her house. He didn't like the smell, he didn't like the taste, he didn't like any of it. So the only story the world remember was that he just
put it aside.
He just continued just chasing his food around the plate. It was Filipino food. And the same in the other people's houses too, because he was not the gourmet.
Oh, it was all her, probably to entertain.
He went alone, but sometimes he would eat something. But we all said, "Oh, I wonder what so and so is going to eat today."
So what? Just out of curiosity, what advice do you have for other people to start an overseas club? And why did it change from the gourmet club to the overseas club?
Overseas club is one thing.
Okay.
The gourmet club is a different thing.
Okay, so the gourmet club kind of happened organically, right? It was just a bunch of people.
It was just food, yeah.
So
and it was mostly foreign. But then after that, we have found American couples that were interested in cooking, and we have found very good cooks, among them is Caroline.
Yeah.
So yes, there were people interested in food, and it started out mostly foreign people, but then after that we branched out. There were many. It ended up at the end that it was all American couples that were interested in food.
Oh, that's great.
A lot that we have. At the very end of our gourmet club, when it finally ended, because everybody was moving away, or there was not that interested anymore. We ended up, there were like 3 professors that we joined them from the university. We joined their club because mine had dissipated over the time.
Okay. There were more than one club. I didn't know that.
There were several.
Oh, wow.
There were 2 or 3. But now I'm talking 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
But then about the 90s, it was kind of evaporating. And we ended up with, people were moving away. So we joined their club. When mine kind of disappeared, kind of fizzled out because people moved away, then I was invited. We were invited to join their club, and I did. And there were all 3 professors from because it was not only people interested in cooking, but people that were interested in conversation.
Okay. Oh, nice. Okay.
It was sort of a cultural thing too.
Oh, nice.
And we were learning from each other.
And how did that manifest then, if it wasn't about cooking?
It was mostly cooking, but also cultural. Like
so
people that we can have meaningful conversations, not just blah blah blah.
Yeah.
We discuss international affairs, political matters. We discuss. There were at the end. It turned out to be more that way because there were 3 professors. They were different kinds, and some of them biology, some of them were history, and so there was a lot of learning experience. There was a political science professor, and then one a doctor. So they were always, and they had hobbies. Like one of the biology professors, there were a couple. He was a biology professor, and he was interested in birds.
So is that how Dad got into it?
Dad already knew, but was interested in all that. And then the others were interested in other things, and we all talked about those things.
Nice.
Interests.
So what, let's go to how you introduce the culture to our childhood. What Dominican traditions were important for you to uphold?
For us, it was important to raise our children knowing our traditions, and we kept up the Christmas tradition and the Reyes tradition, which is January 6th, the Epiphany, which is not an American holiday at all. It was important for us to have our children follow that tradition.
Okay, so the holiday season is in full swing, and the Dominican Republic is an awesome place to be around the holidays. While Christmas is a major highlight, January 6th brings the wonderful celebration of the Three Kings Day, which is just as special in this predominantly Christian nation. Families come together for a yummy feast, cheerful gift exchange. Mainly the kids get all hopped up on sugar and, playing with their toys really loudly, and, it makes the adults drink a lot more rum. But they're closing out their holiday season, so it's kind of a very festive atmosphere.
My Christmas tree didn't come down until January 7th.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
None of the Christmas stuff. And it was centered into that. That you follow that tradition. That's probably, I would say, one of the most important traditions. And the Christmas Eve.
Mm-hmm.
Christmas Eve is the day that we really did all the food and all the
presents and all
everything.
Yeah.
But we opened Christmas Day. We opened presents Christmas Day, like most American homes do.
Okay, so you were folding the traditions.
I was folding them because, like we grew up, we didn't have presents on Christmas at all.
Mm-hmm.
All our presents were always on the Epiphany,
Okay.
the morning of the Epiphany. So what I did was share the gifts, embrace the American tradition of opening Christmas Day, opening presents on Christmas Day. We did that, but then we also shared the tradition of an Epiphany, opening the presents.
Mm-hmm.
And celebrating the Three Kings coming down with, like we did in our country, that we had set out food the night before on the 5th of January, set out food for the camels and drinks for the kings. So we kept that tradition with our children, and so that was very much alive.
I remember leaving out, I don't remember what we left out for the camels. I don't know if it changed every year, but I feel like I remember bushels of
Grass.
Sticks or grass, yeah. And then there was glasses of rum for the Three Kings. Now, hang on a second.
Yeah.
We had 3 cigarettes, too.
Yeah.
Was that tradition here, or did you guys make that up because you wanted a drink and a smoke?
No, it was traditional here.
Really?
In the Dominican Republic, we left.
That's hilarious.
Because everyone smoked in the 50s and 60s.
But you did that when you were a kid too?
Yes.
So funny.
Yes.
After a long journey in the desert, man, you want to drink and a smoke.
And a cigarette. Anyway, so we did that, and mentas.
Oh, the mentas,
candy.
yeah.
Candy.
Yeah.
That was the food.
Clean your breath after that cigarette, dude.
Yeah.
Don't want to offend the Messiah.
But anyway, that tradition of the grass was for the camels.
Right.
In this country, in the United States, that was hard because it was winter, where we lived in a very, very, very cold climate. Mm-hmm. So there was no way we could get green grass.
Yeah.
So we substituted for something else. I don't know what else it was, but the camels got very little food then.
Right. Let's see. So
the kids will get, be excited about putting all that through, on the 5th of January, very excited about putting all that by the door, your bedroom door, okay, or by your bed, because you're waiting the kids to come in, and then late at night when we went to bed, we picked it all up. So.
And you guys must have been drunk.
Well, it was just a little shot of rum.
Shit.
So, and we drank it at midnight, whatever. And then we picked it all up, and the next morning, he said, "Oh, the kids came, they ate it, the camels ate it." It was kind of fun.
Cute.
It was a good tradition to keep.
So what other things? Everybody is going to know in this podcast and this vlog and everything that I don't speak Spanish very well. Why didn't you bring fluent Spanish into the home?
We did, as you were growing up, but once you started school, things got tougher because then you were speaking only Spanish at the beginning. But once you went to nursery school and started going to school, you preferred that language. I remember that if we spoke Spanish, you got all confused, and then we're speaking both languages at the same time, and you were doing the same in school. That didn't work out very well.
Did they complain?
No, but I knew that the teachers would tell me they're mixing Spanish with English, and sometimes I don't know what they're saying and stuff like that. And you got frustrated too as a child because you thought you were doing okay because you have both the languages at home. But then it got to be, the fact that you were all frustrated. So we started speaking more and more English, not because of because you were having frustration in school or at home. It was just became easier.
Yeah.
Because if I was going to give you all the instructions in Spanish, then there were things that you didn't understand because you were already in two languages. But that's the best time for children to learn a language when they're young, and you have that basis. But all of you speak pretty good Spanish, understand pretty good.
It seems to be
because. And then you with one, it's okay, but then once you have four in different levels, different
That's
language.
why Belle and Alicia are quite good at it.
Yes, because...
And then it kind of I understand a lot more than I can say, and then Sophia...
Yeah, but it fizzled out as you growing up and, becoming English being the main language spoken at the house. And then also another way was because you were getting... more English in the schools and coming back, and it was easier for all of you to communicate one another with English. But if you heard me speaking Spanish and being upset, you knew.
Yes, I know. That's why I know a lot of commands only. I don't know like regular
really
conversation.
Because I will go into my Spanish speaking mode. Mom was mad.
That's true. Yeah. That's why I understand commands a lot more than I understand regular old conversation. I know when my room is a mess and I have to pick up my shoes and don't say this, don't say that.
Or go outside and get the mud in your feet and bring it in. Most of my swearing was in Spanish, so you knew that.
Yeah. Let's see. What other things do you think that you changed to more of an American way, and why? Can you think of anything? This is whatever you want to talk about.
American ways. I don't know, because I became I cultivated very well. We have both going on all the time. I don't think it was a specific mindset to do one or the other. It just became. You keep some of your own and you grab some of the other culture, and that's how you really, truly become acculturated to a different culture or a different country. Because it was not it was a mindset to do, we're going to do this that way and that way. It was just a little bit of both. And as you become like a melting pot.
Yeah.
But it was
I remember it was really cool.
But it was not specifically say we're going to keep that way and we're going to keep that way. No.
Yeah, no. I think that a lot of that came from your interest in the food, which is because I remember we could show up for dinner and we didn't know what we were going to get.
Yes.
We didn't know if it was going to be Dominican flag or if it was going to be Korean. What was that thing called?
You love the Korean.
The Korean, like pancakes? Or what was
pancakes, that? Kuchupan.
Kuchupan. Yeah, we loved that one. So we never knew what we were going to get, and I think that...
You didn't like the grape leaves.
Really? Because I love them now.
Yeah, but as teenagers, by the time I was cooking like that, you were teenagers. And you loved a lot of stuff, but You love that. You love the German pot roast that was cooked with beer. And
that tracks.
yeah, and you love the with the big how do you call that?
Meatballs?
No,
Gnocchi?
the flour.
Oh,
Dumplings.
dumplings?
That German pot roast.
Oh, okay.
No, that didn't have dumplings. The one that had dumplings was the one you loved. That was the chicken.
Oh,
The
yeah.
chicken, I don't remember how it's called
Yeah, I don't
anymore.
remember either.
It was the chicken that had dumplings.
Yeah,
sometimes.
chicken and dumplings.
Chicken and dumplings.
What culture does that come from?
That was French.
Yeah.
Yeah, creamy.
Mm-hmm.
That was French.
Yum.
And you love that, and then you love you yourself love the Italian,
Yeah.
the risi.
Oh,
Which was the rice with peas.
That's the one that I wanted every year for my birthday.
Yeah.
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 We each got to pick
But
our
we had-
own birthday dinners, and I always chose
And your
Rice BC, mustard chicken, and
French.
me? French?
No, the mustard chicken.
Mustard
the French
chicken,
recipe.
okay. And then, but we got to choose our own cake because
Yes,
it was.
you did. I made the drosta cake.
What's the drosta cake?
The drosta chocolate cake. It got to be a favorite of everybody.
Oh, really?
That was a chocolate cake with the drosta. Drosta is the brand, if Dutch.
Oh.
Chocolate, cocoa.
Oh. I don't remember that one.
Yeah, you guys called it drosty cake.
I don't remember that one at all.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
It got to be a favorite of everyone. Every one of you asked if it was very chocolatey.
I think that Sophia always chose shrimp scampi. Is that true? Or is that later years?
Later years. Or later years. Scampi was favorite for you too.
No.
That's what I cooked for your graduation dinner. That's what you asked for.
But for my graduation...
I cooked like 25 pounds of shrimp.
Yeah,
And
but
yeah,
that wasn't my
asked.
choice.
It was your
No,
choice.
it's still not my first choice.
It was your choice. For your graduation. And I think those kids, friend of yours, 820, or the 25 pounds at 820.
Let's see, what else?
That was your first choice.
All right. Thank you.
For your high school graduation.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
If I have any other questions, I will probably harass you. I know where to find you.
Yep.
Thank you.
I'm flan.
And flan, yeah. That's still my favorite.
Flan for dessert.
And I've never made it because I know it won't equal yours.
You never made it, but you'd rather have someone make it for you.
Wow. Okay. Thanks. Appreciate it. Oh my God, you have to learn how to cook it because I won't be here forever.
Yeah.
Typical.
Yeah.
All right.
The reason we kept the Epiphany alive in our families, in our family, it was important to keep that tradition because Christmas was all about the child being born, and the Epiphany is the equivalence of that. And because we saw that with time, especially in our Latin countries, or especially the Dominican Republic, we sensed that the Christmas tradition was growing more and more into the European model, American models of Santa. And it was becoming that other gifts would then kind of little by little crept into our tradition, and it was the day that the people were doing gifts was now becoming Santa was giving gifts. Before Santa, it was the child, we call it El Niño, El Divino Niño, the divine child, was the one that was giving gifts on Christmas Day. it was, they say, oh, this, El Nino brought you this, that was, but that disappeared totally later, and they don't even talk about it nowadays. All the gifts are given in this country, most of them, all of them, I would say, is, especially grown-ups, practice that tradition more than they do children. They give
the Americanized Santa, or
Americanized Santa, no Saint Nick's, just Santa. And then
the commercial Santa.
The commercial Santa, right? Excuse me. And then people still here do Reyes nowadays, modern day. Still Reyes is alive in this country. But it has kind of turned out that Christmas is bigger with Santa than it is with Reyes or the Epiphany. But it has not disappeared totally here, in this country at least. It's still Reyes. It's a holiday, and it's still a gift given, especially for the children. That is alive here still.
Oh, because I thought earlier you were saying that it has died and that Santa has taken over, and that
it has died in the sense
Three
of
Kings has,
yes, it has died in the sense it's not as powerful as it was before, but it's still alive. But people are struggling now with gifts at Christmas for Santa and gifts at
two
at
different
the Epiphany.
And just like a week later.
Yes, and they're struggling with that, financially. No, culturally, but financially,
Yeah.
Don't do this where there are children listening.
Wow.
They will know there's no Santa and there's no...
Never thought about that. That's funny.
They will know there's no Santa.
No, it's not going to be a child-friendly podcast for very long. Not every episode, anyway.
So they'll find out there's no Santa. There's no Three Kings coming down to give them gifts.
Oh my
on
God,
Epiphany.
that's hilarious. They're like, what? We thought that the Three Kings were drinking the rum. Instead, it was drunk mom and dad.
Drunks.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but to really, Reyes is still a holiday here, and they're still giving gifts, toys, to kids. Yes,
Okay.
but that's what we're afraid of.
Yeah.
That,
Okay.
yeah, you celebrated Reyes of the Three Kings, and as children you loved it, but you figured out that the other kids in the neighborhood were not doing the same thing. Say, well, why is that? And then you started questioning. I started to tell you because of our tradition, we keep that. But no one else was doing that in Aberdeen, South
Yeah, we
Dakota.
didn't care. We got more toys.
You got more toys.
Trust me, we didn't care. It was fun.
Yeah, and it was something that it was unique just to your family. So, that was kind of fun too. Then she said, oh, we had this tradition. And what I did was I shopped all year round for Christmas and kept some of it for Reyes.
Yes. Yep. I know.
Yes.
Yeah, you were very good at hiding.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we grew up knowing that our house was very different, that we were, for lack of a better, metaphorically, an island. Just like the Dominican Republic is an island, we were an island in which, you walk into the house and there's a totally different atmosphere, totally different thought process, totally different everything compared to our American friends.
In what sense? Specifically?
Well, the food, the fact that we had to be at dinner at a specific time and all together at the table. Not all of the American families did that. You weren't even a naturalized citizen. You became a naturalized citizen when I was in the 80s, yeah. And then, people would always question us. Maybe I should speak for myself and not my sisters, but people would always ask us, why do you do that? Why do you eat that? Or, if they came over for dinner and you were serving Dominican flag, it was so foreign, But at the same time, at school, there was this delicate, weird balance between me passing, quote unquote passing, them, because I'm not really that dark. So, I passed as whatever, just maybe Italian or something like that. I don't know. But, I always had to explain to them where the Dominican Republic was. And, when I got back from there in our Christmases, we went like every other year. Is that right? Yeah. I would have to answer all these questions, or I would bring gifts for my little friends or something. Not a lot, but yeah, they always ask me about January 6th. So yeah, we were kind of an island, and it was weird to be balanced between those two worlds in South Dakota, but then we were also balanced between two worlds here. And it was mainly, I would say, it was mainly to be blamed on the language difference. So we were basically semi-outsiders in Aberdeen and semi-outsiders in Dominican Republic. And I would say mainly in the Dominican Republic, we were the outsiders. Because we couldn't have, no matter how, we couldn't have the deeper conversations or the deeper understanding of things or the colloquialisms, anything like that in the Dominican Republic. And it's still hard to this day. That you're always explaining, a joke or, a turn of phrase or something like that. Or if I feel like a good deep conversation coming on, I'm not able to really dive into that.
Yeah.
It is because of the language difference.
Yeah,
which is why I asked you that earlier. Because we do have cousins who grew up in the United States who were told that they could only speak Spanish in the house. And so they're all very fluent. Yeah. So yeah, I think that is where my interest in doing this whole project is because there's a lot of first generation of all kinds of nationalities that have gone through the same thing, and so they're all dying to understand the.
But what I hear you saying, it was mostly language barrier.
It was language
the
barrier.
Love and the reception and the
no,
that's
that's not what I'm talking about. I think
that
we were welcomed in both countries, certainly, absolutely. It was more the deep connection, like in the United States, nobody else was like us. Either that or everybody else who was like us was trying to acculturate or assimilate, whatever you want to say, also. Like Lynette Chang. Her father is the Chinese doctor that you were talking about before that did the cooking for your... Yeah. And so we had the same kind of thing. Also the Iranis or the, all of these
East Indians.
Right. So we all had that in common, but we never really talked about it. Because we were all trying to be Americans and be accepted and pass. I think that, like, recently Lynette and I got into contact again, and we were talking about just this.
Well, because as children, you don't really sit down to really figure that out and understand it like you do now.
Especially in South Dakota, though.
Yes.
If we were in... like New York, New Jersey, LA.
Yes, big city,
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Then it would have been a different story, I imagine.
I suppose.
But so then when we would come to the Dominican Republic, or like Lynette has said, or any of my other
Mixed
friends.
cultures.
Yeah, mixed cultural friends. And some were half and half. Like Lynette was half
Yes.
Caucasian, half Chinese, whatever, half generations back American, and
Yes.
one directly.
When for you it was
It was
total.
Yeah, it was total Dominican. But so I do have friends today. Like one of my friends is half Dominican and half, I don't recall what the other half is, but she's dying to learn about the Dominican side. And so when we talk to each other, and she's going to be one of my interviewees, she's very curious about, I think it's her father's side is from Santo Domingo. So she's very curious about that.
so she knows less.
She knows a lot less than I do, but she has been here. And then I have another friend who is half Dominican, half Spanish. And so he grew up in Spain, but his dad is from Spanish and his mom is Dominican. And so he knows nothing about his Dominican heritage. And then
Because I find that surprising because the mother mostly is the influence
Yeah.
the most.
it
Because
was
father is
surprising to me
working.
also.
Yeah.
But see, he grew up in Spain though. So of course he's going to know everything about Spanish culture.
Of course.
But anyway, what I'm saying in total is that there was a different understanding that we were kind of walking this balance beam in both countries. And so it wasn't that we understood one side of our family or one side of the other. It's that we were walking this weird tightrope of being accepted as first generations or accepted as outsiders in the Dominican Republic. And I think that a lot of people in the United States at least, or in other cultures too, but my experiences with the United States is that we have there are many of us who have a hunger to understand. Anyway, I think you gather what I'm saying.
Yes. But the same happened to me too. In a sense
Not
of
really, because you were the immigrant.
yeah, but
It's very different.
no, but not growing up or anything like that.
Right.
But with the language.
Yes,
I was
that
not,
part is different.
I was
You
not
were-
good in one and not good in the other.
That's not.
I felt like I was
That's not true. You
both
were
languages.
I disagree because you were completely fluent in. You're like.
After a long
But
time.
you're like my friend Santiago. You grew up in the Dominican Republic and immigrated to the United States where you had to learn English.
Yeah.
He grew up in Spain and moved to the United States where, I mean, I don't know
to
how
learn
much
English.
English he knew before he got there, but he had to probably get more fluent in order to fit in. I don't know. I've never really talked to him about this.
Yeah.
In great
No,
depth,
but it's a language.
Yeah.
That I'm talking about.
yeah,
Language.
yeah, but
I was,
the-
I was becoming so involved in the English language that I never kept up my Spanish. Like I couldn't, to this day, really have an interview like this one in Spanish that is
Really?
fluent, and I could, but it would be like thinking in English first and then translating.
But it's not like that right now because you've been here for 2
It
years.
is a little better, but that doesn't mean that I could, come TV and have an interview with me. I had to think, because I think English first now.
What do you do, math? How about math?
I kept all of that in Spanish.
Oh, really? I think Dad said that too. And he's a physician. He did that
I couldn't.
all in Spanish.
I couldn't convert that.
Different
to
side of the
English.
brain. No? Is it?
Which one?
Math and
The
language.
math. They're different.
Yeah.
They're the same side of the brain.
I'll have to look that up so I can put
Yeah.
that correctly.
Yeah. I couldn't do math in English. I kept all that numbers and everything.
That's interesting.
No, numbers, just regular numbers now, but equations, didn't do any of that in English.
All right.
Kept all that in Spanish.
Thank you. Thanks for tuning in to Tradition Cafe. I'd like to thank my mom, Carmen Chavier, for the wonderful interview and for the lesson on my own heritage. Go to www.traditioncafe.com for some videos, including the one where she is making the ensalada rusa, which we were talking about earlier. And there's links to more videos and some blog posts and all that. So keep your ear out, keep your eye out for more podcasts coming in 2025. And have a wonderful New Year, everyone, and happy holidays. Thanks. Bye.